Hey, this is Justin with Wood-Mizer South in Newnan, Georgia. I work in customer service and sales. Today I'm going to be showing Triple L Rustic Design on how to use their new 40 wide sawmill. Let me show you this. So 2 is just your up and down of your clamp, right? Which is not crucial to get it out of travel.
Right, okay.
So 1 is in and out of the clamp. So in and out, up and down right here on these 2 levers. This 3rd lever is the tricky one. It's side supports or your backstops or dogs, however you want to call them. So those come up first and they're on a sequencer valve, then the turner comes up, right? That way you can't accidentally roll a log off.
Okay.
Yep, because the logs fit really nicely between that tire and that frame.
I'm sure.
So those come up first, turner comes up.
So you can't make a mistake
with the turner part, yeah.
That...
Yeah, I mean, nothing's impossible, but they try to make it dummy proof. So you're gonna go down with the turner and then those come down, all on 1 lever pull, right?
Okay.
Just the 3rd lever. The 4th and 5th lever are your roller toe boards, right? So what I normally do if I'm making dimensional lumber, or if you're cutting you got a fat end on a log, a skinny end on a log, you can raise up that skinny end and kind of get it more even cut on that first cut.
One of those individually?
Yeah, and clamp it like that.
Okay.
Now,
fantastic.
The biggest mistake I see people do is they forget to lower those back down after they did their 180 turn. Yep.
So we've done that.
Yep.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, I can't say I haven't done it either. All right, so those go back down. Usually the habit to get into is you maybe, like if you're doing dimensional lumber, you cut, maybe make another cut, and then when you 180 it, you raise the whole thing up and you clean your bed rails off and swing those bed rails in and then set it back down, all hydraulically. That way you don't forget to lower them down.
Yeah.
And then you didn't accidentally get a piece of bark or something trapped under the log, get your lid off by 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch, whatever.
Yeah.
So I see that's the most common mistake I see with the hydraulic owners. They just kind of turn it and start cutting and they didn't look at that. All right, so basically that's what 4 and 5 does. The last one's obviously up and down on the loader, right? I usually, if I don't have an edger back here catching boards, what I'll usually do is leave that loader halfway up and it can hold my flitch boards, my edging boards on the loader temporarily.
I've watched that.
Yep. So this button here, we can go over all the controls real quick.
No more.
Yeah. So no more arm. Yeah. So the arm's electronic, goes in and out, right? So since you got a wide head, you can go up to about 34 inches on that. I think if you measure, it's about 34.5 between those rollers. But you know, the log has to be perfect, right? So if you were gonna add a board return option later, all the wiring's already in there. That's where it would go. Right?
That's
it just drops, it's a finger that drops down.
It drops down, yeah.
Yep. So you got a laser here, obviously that's installed, right? So you gotta have your log laying up there for it to shine on it.
And where's the laser come from?
It's actually right here.
Oh, okay.
That's your laser. It's got a cap on it right now, like to protect it.
But it actually shows the line on the log now?
Yeah, it'll show the line on the front of the log, so you know where your blade's gonna get in there. It's kind of handy on a remote mill. When you're, especially if you're ever sawing under a shed or indoors, it's even more pronounced. But that's your laser there. So the other controls on here, your blade, right? So that's auto clutch engaged and disengaged, right? Going down the road, that's gonna be up to kind of keep that engine from bouncing going down the road.
And
so
that put basically the gear
on it puts tension on the drive belt. So instead of having an idler pulley like you do on your little mill, it'll have a big drive belt and that engine's picking up and grabbing that drive belt. It's 3-groove drive belt. Then when you let it down, instead of those little brake pads that can wear out pretty quickly, you got a big brake strap. That ceramic brake strap lasts almost forever, but so you disengage it. Now all the weight of that engine's resting on a big brake pad. So it's a lot more heavy duty built. Any questions about the auto clutch? That's all done right here.
Is that basically gonna be what turns on the blade to start spinning?
Yeah, so it's automatically going to pull the throttle cable, so it's all in one pull.
So that's basically takes over the lever that we use on the...
Instead of pulling that lever down, you just flip that up. Now you know how on yours, if you were going to hand track it on the 15, you can kind of overpower it to hand track it, see if you had any tracking issues. On this one, there's a trick I do. So I'll turn the power off, I'll flip that up, and then what I'll do is just cycle the power just to get it moving. Now I can hand track it easily. So that's a maintenance tip, you know. If you ever had tracking issues and you're trying to hand track it to see where it's coming off, what it's doing, that's how I do it.
The dog, I guess, that holds the log?
The clamp,
There's just one?
So there's just one, and you can always
So
extend
no more
it.
all the craziness that we've been dealing
Yeah,
with.
you don't have to try to wedge something or hold
Yeah.
something, and yeah, no more of that. You just pull a lever. And let's say you got an awkward piece of something you're trying to clamp up there. Nothing's keeping you from putting another board right here and making that 6-inch clamp turn into a 10-foot clamp or something. You know, make a jig,
Oh, I
right?
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Longer.
It's kind of weird looking because you're taking away this rail,
Well,
but look how much more ergonomic it is now. You can walk in and get your material so much easier, and you're not standing around reaching around everything. Really, it was a genius design when they originally came up with it, especially that cantilever, because you don't have to level the thing. Like your off bearer could be standing right here when you're waiting on the board to come through there, and they'd be standing right here and just take it off, right? Or either side. Like you can go through the blade, come up and go back, and you have off bearer just pulling it straight off the back, you know. Be just standing there waiting. Yeah. All right, so being as I got it out of travel, I'm gonna take the saw head to the other end of the mill. I'm gonna show you how to change the blade on this machine compared to what you currently have. So the sawdust chute, I'm gonna get it down out of the way. So these guys, at some point they needed these hood pins. So you just pull your hood pins out. I'm gonna take the doors off first on the. So I just take them out and I always set them right here when I'm working with a 40.
no more hinges then.
Yeah. This is kind of an older design, so that Yeti cooler stuff didn't come out till later. The 40 head's like an older kind of been out in the real. The reason why the sawdust is on there, we want a test cut on it before you ever show up.
No, that's good.
So we know the customer ain't gonna be sitting here waiting on us trying to fix something coming out of the factory. All right, so open the doors up just like you would on your other one, but this one's a little different. Now you got a hydraulic tensioner over here. I know I'm making you walk a lot.
Oh, you're good.
So luckily they put a sticker up here to tell you where to keep your blade tension, right? On this hydraulic L-shaped block here, these are just guides. There's where you're pushing right there. That little cylinder is pushing right there. So you want to going down the road, you want to leave it on about 500 or 1,000. That way you don't have to worry about reseating your blade on the wheels. But I'm gonna show you how to change the blade. So I'm gonna back this off. I usually get it about 2 or 3 inches of thread showing. Right, and then I'll push this in right here. Now take the pressure off the blade. Right, and then the blade just comes right off. So go like that, just get it out of there. Always get it off the wheels first, and then take it out of the top. If you try to take it out of the bottom, it's gonna get trapped behind that wheel and give you a fit. And then I'll get it out of the bottom. Right? Yep. You guys already know how to coil your blades and everything? All right. So 4 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whip it down on that end. When it bends, keep the teeth going towards each other. Make like a bear trap out of it. And then cross it over either side. And then to unfold it, I always tell people look for the 8 behind the cue ball or the X behind the circle. So I'm looking for that 8 behind the cue ball. See that 8 behind the circle, or the X behind the band here. Then turn the teeth towards me and make my hand like a 3. And I'll put my first finger over, thumb under, and then I can release with this hand, put it back on the left side and release that first finger, and then it'll open up. You can kind of control the opening. So let's kind of make it look easy. All right, so I'm gonna set this aside real quick. We usually have butter knives for customers learning how to fold them right there.
That's nice.
Feel free to use them if you want. So you can, just like on the other mill, you can get these belts off by hand pretty easily. And you just want to make sure that the V grooves are clean. You know, if you ever have blades thrown off, especially in the location you're at, that loop sometimes creates an issue because you get buildup under it.
Yeah.
Then it'll throw the band off.
We've had some issues with that.
So there's like other, you know, pine saw, diesel, there's so many tricks to keep the pitch off the blade. Yeah. Keep the pitch off the blade, it won't jump off, it won't happen. You can also run a B56 belt on that side. That'll help a lot too. But you need like 3 screwdrivers and a couple cuss words getting that thing in there. And when it's time to cut it out, you just cut it out. Any questions about any of that? That's the same as what you got currently. Pretty
Other
simple.
than the hydraulic part in the back, which is fantastic.
Yep.
So you just set that basically between 2,800.
Yeah, on a cold day, you may have to keep an eye on it because it may lose pressure a little bit. And that's kind of normal, the variable in like 500 pounds difference. That's kind of normal. When you first kick it on, it's gonna drop. You walk over there while the blade's spinning, you can turn it maybe 2 or 3 times, it'll stay there after that. If you ever cut into something pretty extreme, it'll tell you right there on that gauge. It'll be like, ooh, I fell back a little bit, something happened. You'll get used to how it works, but just keep it, above 2,500 and it'll cut great. But I always keep it on 3 if I can. That's gonna be better for it. Tighter the better. All right, so, when you're in here, stick your stick up in here, whatever you gotta do to keep this clean in here. Especially down there doing that long needle you guys got. It's the sappiest stuff on earth down there. So I'm gonna come here, and what I do is always walk around with my blade in the center for safety so I don't catch me on a pant leg or something. And I'll slide that blade in there, and I'll get it in these grooves, and I'll set it there. That's why I took the saw head all the way down here, so I don't have to walk back and forth around the mill. And I can go on the drive side here and just preload it on there. On this one, what is different is you did not have this bark protection before, this deflection.
Oh, yeah.
So you want to make sure your blade goes up in there before you seat it. And I'm just kind of eyeballing where the tracking looks like it should be. So I'm going to get in here. I always take my glove off, reach behind here, and raise this, slacken this belt up so I can slide that blade. It's kind of tricky right there, but you got to get it in that groove, but also slide it like that. Right, so once I get it on there, then I can kind of put some tension on it, right, like that. Just reach through there and just use your thumb and your fingers, kind of true it up on the back of the wheel. And usually, if you keep it around flush on the back of the wheel, it'll track well. Yeah, it'll go back to where it needs to be. So you can start coming over here and putting a little tension on it now. It's not as quick as the cam lever, but at least you can see how much pressure is on it. So I'm at 3 grand now, tension. Now remember that trick I taught you how to fold it, or how to track it? You got to auto clutch the engine up. So the book usually tells you close the doors, turn the engine on, but I'm gonna show you the way I do it to kind of make sure how I can troubleshoot things. So I'm gonna flip that switch up. Then I'm just gonna give it a little power, get it to move a little bit. Now I should be able to turn that wheel. See how easily I can turn the wheel now. On your little 15, if you had somebody standing over there and they barely pull that lever down, it's doing the same thing as this. But I can hand track it, see what it's going. Now look at the pressure, it's gonna lose. Like I said, it's gonna lose a couple 100 pounds, that's normal. So you just walk over there while it's spinning and just bring it back until it warms up a little bit, and then it'll stay where it's at. All right, any questions about any of the blade changing on it? This door goes in like this, on this side. And then you try to get it in that slot right there, like that, and just get it at what for, right there, and you can lock it down, all right? Then this other door just comes over here. There, tighten it down, put your hood pins back in, it's ready to, pretty much ready to cut some wood. All right, you got your fuel tank here, same water jug as before. Now this one's different. You know, on yours you probably have an extra valve, or you got just this valve on. Some people add like a brass valve down there. On this one, it's on a water solenoid. So as soon as you go forward to make a cut, it automatically kick on. So you just get your, like that, you don't have to go up there, turn it on and off. One other thing that's different too, you know how before you had a quarter scale up here, right? And you know how to use that now. So this one is grade hardwood and standard scale. So what you were using was standard scale. So that means it's adding an 1/8 inch to it, but now you got a more kerf right there for grade hardwood stuff.
It's no longer a magnet.
Yeah, so this one's just slides up and down, and it's not a magnet. So it does last, this lasts longer. This lasts 30, 40 years.
Magnet.
Any questions about any of that? Yeah, this one will go 21 foot between this black line here and the black line on that other side.
Okay.
All right,
And
there's
that
a,
line does basically tell you where the head
that's where you don't want to put a log
Past.
beyond, yeah, because you won't get your blade out unless you get a chainsaw out. So,
There's one on that end too.
yeah, there's one. There's actually 3 black lines, so there's one on each end to tell you your 21-foot length where the blade's going to stop, and then you got one in the middle. That's where it tells you where to stop to go in the travel position. Put it on that pin, then yep, kind of tells you where to put your saw head to go down behind those hydraulic features.